Okay, now I'm gonna show you how we break these nuts again. Said I wasn't gonna video it, but let's okay, so what we gotta do here is we're gonna put this on the motor. There's a motor section and then there's a cylinder. The motors, so you're gonna what's going on here? Okay, for some reason could be this thing here. I don't know, whoever used this last. Give me a second here, find out why that motor's not working. This happens when you're in a shop and you got multiple people using stuff. You don't know what they've done to it. Last time I used this thing, it worked. I don't know what's going on here. Okay, I'm not going to mess with that. Well, I do want that working, so give me a second. It takes a while to get these things to set up. There you go. Okay, so we're getting that lined up. Get this pulled up. And get it in there. Okay, there it is. Now we're going to take and tighten this up so we don't bend this rod. Lock that in there. It shouldn't take too much. Okay, I'm going to start with the motor on the loosen mode. Tighten this mount down. Don't break that. We've actually snapped these before because they were loose. Okay, the motor's not going to crack this open, but we're going to get it started. You can see. Boy, that thing was super loose. That's not right. Let me check that. Because we're not having to use the cylinder. It's just coming off with a motor, so that was super loose in there. That's not right. That has to be torqued on. I'm able to take this apart with the motor only, and normally you can't do that. So that tells me, good thing that we did. So when we put this nut back on there, we're going to torque that thing down to specs. Sometimes you can put Loctite on it. You don't want these things coming apart on this heavy equipment. Way too loose. And this one I haven't worked on before. It's the first time, it looks like. So from maybe the constant banging, it just loosened that nut up. But that's could be catastrophic in the field. They could have a big load and that nut could just blow those threads off. It comes loose and then the whole load falls to the ground. So that's why you need one of these machines that torque them down, especially on cat. You can't just impact them. You can't put a 20-foot cheater on it. You have to use a machine and torque them down. Okay, now we have a big chart. There is a little chart here that tells the different torques on there, and there's a spec sheet on how to do it on the diameter of the threads and all this. Okay, I pull that out and I check it when we're torquing them. But definitely that's a problem why that's coming off with the motor. So that's a tip on that. It should not be like that. If you ever watch these things work out in the field, they beat them, they hit hard, picking up big loads, and there's a lot of abuse. And if that nut comes off, that rod will come out of there and drop the whole load on the ground. So you can see that this is just coming off with a low pressure motor. Definitely bad. But we'll correct it. So I'll just get this off and that'll be quickly show you, and then maybe I'll do another one when I go to torque it back on and show you the specs how we do it. We have a gauge down here on our panel, and it's got some little markers on it to get to the pressure you need to torque that down. So we'll just run this off. See, normally you would never be able to break this free if you try to use a cheater bar. I've seen guys do all kinds of stuff. They'll cut them off, but the problem with that, then it heats up the threads and galls it, and then they buy a new nut, okay, but then they go to put it back on and they can't get it to the torque spec because they don't have a torque unit. Okay, you can't impact a 1-inch impact. No, you can't do that. It has to be torqued. So we're getting to this thing. We'll just run this off till it gets close. Okay, about halfway. Let's keep running it. Then we'll get that kit ordered. I'll show you this nut. Now another thing with these cylinders, these cats, when you go get the kit from Caterpillar. Now sometimes we can match them up, but Cat has some proprietary seals in it. So we just get the kit from them. Sometimes they're metric and all this. But inside these heads and the base, there's some wiper seal, dust seals on where the grease comes in that does not come in the kit. So you need to order those and ID those dust seals. You don't want to send the cylinder back. You reseal it, yes. But then you send it back to them with no dust seals and they need to put it on, you're doing a half-assed job. So that's just one thing to be aware of. When you make the order, especially if you're on a time frame, be aware that you may not have, that those dust seals may not be in the kit. You need to order them separately. I know because I've done it, and it really pisses you off when you get it all ready and you're going to run it back to the customer or they need it right away and you forgot to get those dust seals and you give it back to them. It's, you're doing a half-assed job. So just so you know, check that. It happens on some other cylinders too, but mostly on the Caterpillar, in Volvo wheel loaders, same thing. They don't have those dust seals inside the kit. There's 4 of them. Just so you're aware of that. Let's see how close we are here. Okay, it's still going. It's going real slow. We'll just finish this off and show you the nut on here. That might be enough, so we'll loosen up this, we'll slide this back. It's better when you do this, when you have someone else helping you. A lot of times I'm doing these videos on the weekends and no one's around, and we kind of have this set up where I can do it, I can do it himself. And we try to make it that way. That way you don't have guys beating off in the shop. You may try to do everything yourself. That's why I have all these cranes and things in here to manipulate it. Okay, what is this? Oh, okay, damn it. Let's see what's happened here. The nuts come out of the thing. And there we go. so I'm gonna get this thing down here so you can kind of see. I'll take this off. Watch your fingers. So that's what your socket looks like, but you can see this nut here. It's way too loose. We'll fix that. Okay, so that's what your nut looks like. It does have a nylock in here. When I put this together, I'll put a little red Loctite in here and I'll torque it to spec. So we got it apart. Now I'm going to get the seal kit ordered. So just stand by on that. Gives you a little insight how this has to be done and what you're going to need as far as equipment goes. Stand by.